Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm so excited you're here with us, and I am super excited about our guest today, Paula Quinsee. And so say hello, Paula. How are you?
Hi, everyone, and nice to be with you.
Yes, it's really nice to be with you because right now we have had 2 days of technological problems with this getting started, and we're just going to roll with it. So we made it here, and I'm so excited to have you on board. And I just want to step back and say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to those the brave community out there. And I just want to remind you who I am. I'm a brand, business, and brave strategist and your host, Jenna Rodriguez. And so we are going to have a great conversation today. Join us and certainly leave comments, reviews if you find something that's really useful or just really starts your day off in the right way from this conversation. So Paula, welcome. Would love for you to introduce yourself so everybody knows exactly what you're up to in the world and where you are in the world. Let's start with that.
Yeah, maybe let's start with that. Maybe that's why we've had technology issues. I'm in what some people would potentially consider the deepest, darkest Africa. So I am in South Africa, Johannesburg. I am a relationship expert, TEDx speaker, and author of Embracing Conflict. And I work with individuals and organizations around personal development, emotional intelligence, conflict management, and behavioral profiling and assessments.
Wonderful. And how long have you been doing that, by the way?
I've been doing it full-time for 4 years. And then before that, I did it in a part-time capacity. In my previous lifetime, as I like to call it, I was I was in the corporate world in a completely different industry. I was doing marketing and advertising. That's what I had originally studied. And through my own personal journey, I got into the coaching industry, fell in love with it, and decided to pursue it as a passion and then as a career.
I love it. Yeah, I too was in corporate America and found a new path, new journey, right? And I think that's many of our stories. And I think what's amazing, honestly, about what that means and what that looks like is that there's never a destination. You know, like we can reinvent ourselves as many times as we choose, and just following the things that we fall in love with, like you said. And I too, I love the personal development world. I love business and marketing and all of those things, and just finding a way to monetize your gifts and your love for something, I think is just really powerful and brave, because, you know, and some people stay in that corporate job and think they have no way out. And so tell us a little bit about that transition and that backstory of how did you get the brave on to, of course, jump into your own thing?
Well, I didn't initially set out that this was how it was going to happen. I kind of had it in the back of my mind that one day when I was tired of the corporate world, it would be my second career. But as you know, as the universe works, when you put things out there, it will test that. And
yes.
So through a mutual connection, we got in touch via LinkedIn. I met up for coffee, and I knew she was in the coaching world. I didn't kind of realize how much or how involved she was with it. And so when I met up with her for coffee, she was actually the president of the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, here in South Africa. And so I spoke to her about it, and she gave me a whole lot of things to go and think about, which I did, and had kind of pushed it to the back of my mind. And a couple of weeks later, I got an email from her via someone else that this person or other connection of hers was looking for someone to expand their practice into a holistic wellness practice. And she was looking for life coaches. And at the time, I actually deleted the email because I thought, no, I'm not ready for this yet, you know. And so I slept on it. And about 2 days later, I went and found the email. And I thought, let me go and have coffee. What's the worst that can happen? Right. So I went and had coffee. And at the end of the conversation, the woman said to me, so when can you start? And I was like, that wasn't part of the equation. I hadn't thought that far.
Right.
And it took me about a month to should I, shouldn't I? And eventually I was, you know what, it's now or never. Take the leap. And it's either sink or swim. And it's probably been a combination of both for the last 4 years.
Wow. Yeah. You know, and I think there's, I'm sure there's people listening that are in that in that the ledge, right? The edge of the decision, it's like, should I stay? Should I go kind of conversation. And I've been there as well. And it's been, like it emotionally is a process to like really control your, kind of the ego versus the higher self going, you got this, and this is in your life for a reason, versus like, oh my God, what's this mean? How am I going to do this? Who am I going to disappoint? Right? Like that internal struggle, conflict, as you talk about. And so what's some advice for people that have that internal struggle, in your opinion?
I would say, first of all, have a support structure in place, because it's a scary leap of faith.
Yes.
But most of all, believe in yourself and understand that it's a journey. The picture and the vision that you started off with is not going to be where you end up, because it is going to flow, and as you learn and grow and adapt and expose yourself to different people and industries and all of that. So even though you have a plan, it's not cast in stone, and be flexible enough to just go with the flow and explore, but also trust and have faith and believe as well.
Right.
Support structure, network. It's all about who you know, relationships, building relationships.
Yeah. Who can you have coffee with?
Yeah. And in fact, I think that's how we got to chat. It was through our mutual network.
Yes.
We were introduced to each other.
That's right.
Be brave enough to try new things, and to reinvent yourself as you go, because that's what it's about. Is how can you find the path that works for you, that's going to ensure you love what you do, but at the same time pay the bills at the end of the month.
Right. Run a business, right? Yeah. So, and I think that's great advice. And the support, I think, is so important, because, you can feel very alone in your decision. And if you don't have that support system, whether it's a mentors or family or whatever it is, I mean, sometimes we don't have the at-home family supporting us, and we have to like really step into our ownership of our decisions and our, choices and our desires. And so lean on people that like can believe in you before you can believe in yourself sometimes. And clearly I would gather you're one of those people for those out there as well. And so just go back a little bit farther. I'd love to dig a little deeper into like, just what's your story about? Where, it's like we went from corporate to entrepreneur, a handful of years ago, but like, what makes up Paula, I guess is the question. Go back farther. Let's go back further.
Yeah, so how my journey started is way back in 2006. I was in a six and a half year relationship that had hit rock bottom, and we were going for therapy, and our therapist referred us to Imago Relationship Therapy. So we went away on this couples retreat or weekend, and I was just blown away at the impact that it had on me in helping me understand who I was, the journey that I had become, the influences in terms of childhood and upbringing and all of those things that had shaped who I'd become, and my perspective on the world and relationships, including the string of failed relationships as well as the one that I was in currently. And so that was then where it started for me. It didn't save the relationship. Unfortunately or fortunately, I was playing the blame game. I was blaming my partner for everything that had gone wrong because he had had an affair. Until I had to look in the mirror and go, how did I co-create the situation and own my stuff? Now that doesn't mean I'm condoning his behavior, but what had happened is that I was working full-time in corporate. I was studying part-time for my degree, and my relationship wasn't a priority. And so I wasn't meeting his needs. I didn't feel he was meeting my needs. He wasn't supporting me because here I was trying to study and all those kind of things. And we just lost each other along the way, and communication, conflict, all of those things. So that's really where the journey started. Yeah. And from there, I then explored and being trained up as an Imago facilitator and educator. That's where it started for me. So I started out working with individuals from a personal perspective.
Right.
And then I further studied and developed myself in terms of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So I'm an NLP life coach. And then I started working with individuals, and I started combining my corporate experience with my personal experience. And I've positioned myself around relationships. And it's all about relationship dynamics for me, whether it's relationship with self, personal relationships, work relationships. The key principles are the same: conflict, communication, emotional intelligence, emotional vulnerability, all of those things.
Right.
And kind of how I've now positioned myself and evolved and packaged myself in terms of my service offering.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting to know that, you know, out of something that is, you know, pretty rock bottom, as you called it, is where we start to discover the future for ourselves, you know, right? It's like, if you hadn't had that, what if, right? What if that hadn't occurred? What opportunity for the growth that now leads you to what you do, right? So not that I wish a marriage to end and all those things to occur, but I love that you know, saw the co-creation in it. I think that's a big part of, you know, what victimization looks like, is we just continue to blame everything 100% on other people or circumstantial or whatever. And the only place for healing or perspective is to take the ownership and still choose. I mean, you chose to leave or stay in or whatever the choice is. But I think that's also related to business. I think business is, you know, it's a relationship. It's a relationship to self as CEO, and a relationship to the business, and, you know, the requirement of what that relationship is. And it has needs, it has nurturing, right? That needs, and that's so interesting. Like, the things that we prioritize, the things that we attend to, right? Relationship called marriage, or relationship called a business, or children, or whatever it is. When we don't pay attention to it, it doesn't grow, it doesn't get nurtured. And so I just kind of put that parallel in there. So yeah, I love that. And meaning, I love the fact that you stepped into that discovery so that you could now offer it to other people. And so go back to, when you say that, you know, I got a few clients. So I'm just imagining there's someone listening that is like, well, that's great for you. Like, just went and got a couple of clients, but how did you get some clients in the beginning? Like, what was that first step?
Yeah. So initially what I did is I started developing some material, and then I bribed my friends
Yeah.
with coffee and muffins and free food, because we all like free stuff. So, and I used them as a test pilot, as guinea pigs, to test my stuff on and to get constructive feedback, to tweak it.
Yeah.
And then I started, you know, through them getting the word out, and then I started advertising in my local community classifieds and that, until I got my first paying client, and I was scared as hell because I didn't know what I was doing. But
do it anyway.
Yeah, do it anyway, and just fake the confidence until you make it.
Yeah.
And so that's really how I started, and slowly started building a database of clients, which I now obviously nurture from a communication point of view, and a blog and a offering perspective. And obviously then you start from a marketing point of view, social media, those kind of channels and platforms, and build your profile and build your credibility, and almost become a niche focused or area of expertise.
Yeah,
and
be known for something.
Become a thought leader. Yeah, become a thought leader in that space.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that kind of inside scoop, because I feel people sometimes make it so much more complicated to get started. You know, it is a start. It is something, you know, you just did market research at the beginning, you know, whether it's friends or family or what have you, even if it was pro bono, it's market research. And you said something else really powerful, like confidence comes through the action, right? So it's like, get the first client, even if you don't know what the heck you're doing. The confidence and the awareness and the refinement only comes from that action. You know, it's like, if we sit back and just think about it, we never really get to the result that we're looking for. So yeah, I just really want people to get grounded, and, you know, we all start where we start, and, you know, and it doesn't have to be complicated, and then you grow. And I think the results love speed. It's kind of like the faster you take action. And that's one of the, cornerstones of being brave, in my definition, is make a decision, commit, and then take massive action. Like commitment on a daily basis to just being scared out of your wits, or I don't know how it works or whatever, but do it anyway.
Yes.
So that's all you did, right? That's all you did. So made a commitment. And so tell us a little bit more about when it comes to being an entrepreneur, what has been the hardest thing you've had to overcome overall?
Sure. So for me, my biggest fear was financial stability and security.
Got it.
And there are still moments where I think, what the hell was I thinking?
Sure.
But
I'd be
one of
safer
my
over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my mentors very early on, because I'm a big believer in mentors, gave me some advice, which was the sooner you learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, you'll be okay.
Yes. Yes. Including the money.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially the money.
Yeah. So obviously, if you are going to look to leave corporate or some sort of stability and safety, is have some resources in terms of savings or something that you can tap into for X number of months until you started making some sort of income. Yeah.
And what would you say to someone, clearly if you're laid off, just go get massive action and make it happen, right? But what would you say to someone, because what I heard was, it's like, yes, have a resource, save up, all that. But I notice people, they save and save and they never really get to the jump, right? Yes. Like, so it's like there's a balance between being over prepared and trying to be so perfectly prepared for the inevitable or the unknown that we literally don't take the action necessary. So what's your advice about kind of finding that balance of figuring out when to take the leap of faith?
So yeah, just do it. You can try and be as perfect as you want, but things are going to evolve as you go anyway. Where I started off to where I am now is completely different.
Right.
So do it, start, and then evolve as you go. Tweak it, refine it, perfect it, whatever it is that you're doing. Because as you grow and learn and develop and become more confident, you're going to change things anyway.
Right. That's right. Yeah, as it should, it's an evolution process no matter what. And I love that. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about, kind of like keeping what's the small boat that you hook to the ship, whatever that one's called, the dinghy or whatever, I don't know what it's called.
Life raft.
Life raft, right? That thing that you blow up. But anyway, it's like you've got the rope hooked to the ship. And maybe that mothership is the funding source for the business that you want to build. And at some point, when it can kind of like run on its own motor at some level, even though it's a small ship or a small raft, you got to cut the cord at some point. And, in the meantime, don't cut it, it's like, don't cut your nose off despite yourself. But at some point, I think people have to get brave and do it anyway, right? And take that leap of faith. And so that's what you did, correct?
Yeah, and so I sort of use two scenarios. So when I'm working with people and they're in a similar situation or a crossroad where they're not sure which way to go, there's always sort of two questions that I get them to use as a bit of a sanity check thing. So the first one is the world going to stop turning? Probably not. And is someone going to die? Probably not. Yeah. So what's the worst that can happen anyway? And then linked to that is that old cliche that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
So if you try and imagine every scenario possible. What are the consequences? Because the more prepared you are, the better you are to handle those situations should they arise.
Yeah. And even, I think it's like just being in awareness of what's possible, but also what's possible in a good sense, like what's not the worst, but also the best, it's like what's possible either way, because there's such opportunity when you say yes to yourself. And I love that because it manages the fear or eliminates the fear when we can just face it and put it in front of us instead of like it's stirring up in our emotions. So I love that advice. And I think it's just, you know, it's a test, you're a testament to, you know, getting out of your own way to step into your gift and finally have coffee with that lady that's like put a deadline, right? Put a question in front of you. It was like, oh, I got to make a decision, right? I got to choose. So
Exactly.
congratulations on choosing. And so what would you say your next brave is? Like, what's coming up for you?
Sure, I feel I've had so many braves already, but there are definitely a lot more.
Yeah.
So my sort of big, bold vision, to put it out there, is to go global and to
Yeah.
work with people all over the world, in various different ways, whether it be online, like we are chatting, or through online programs or partnerships. And that's already started putting it in place,
Right.
and so the wheels are slowly turning, and we've planted the seeds, and we need to take the next step in terms of working with people all over the world. So that's my big bold vision. In terms of what next, one of the brave steps that I did take, which helped raise my profile and my credibility, was applying for being one of the panel of experts for Married at First Sight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had the South African version here, and I had no idea what the show was about at the time, and they called me in to chat about it, and I walked away going with these big eyes, what have I got myself into?
What is this? I see that show.
And so then I phoned a friend and I said, I need to talk to you now.
And so did you say yes to it?
I did. I said yes to it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of, putting yourself out there sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's been the benefit of that?
It's helped raise my profile and my and my credibility.
Yeah.
And so, that's helped from a credibility point of view in terms of being in the media.
Yeah.
And so that's helped also from a credibility point of view, and as well as raising your profile out there from a client perspective, because people see you as now being a lot more credible.
Right.
And it was a wonderful experience. I learned so much as well, not only about myself, but from the other experts on the show, as well as the individuals in the show.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen that show here in the US a couple times, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what an experience. Yeah. I'm like, well, you can do it that way or the old traditional way. To each his own, for sure. But and thank goodness they have support like you in the background, right? So so amazing. And I think that's what's powerful about Brave, is being able to say yes, and then noticing the benefits of saying brave, like what comes of that brave, right? The ripple effect is what I talk about, or the brave effect, actually. And so when you think about your next bold brave called, go global, what are the fears that pop up?
I think fears would be potential things like, for example, language barriers. Because that is a real thing. Obviously going into some countries where there are cultural barriers. So sure. Let's say, for example, from a female woman perspective, so Islamic countries as an example, potentially countries where there are security or safety risks.
Right.
And I think also probably the hardest one would be going into a market where you're an unknown and starting to build that credibility in other territories.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. So thank you for sharing it's kind of like those are the things that come up when we haven't moved into the space yet. And yet I know you're a brave master, so you'll step right into it and figure it out as you go. But I wanted people to hear that even you have thoughts about what's not to come, what hasn't yet happened, right? And I think it's very normal. And so it's just taming the monster, right? It's just taming those thoughts and being like, whatever shows up, I can handle. And and of course, you're going global right now. This is an international podcast as well. And so I can't wait to hear what others have to say. But this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your perspective, for getting brave and doing what you're doing, and just the kind of relational and transformational work that you're doing, I think we need more of. And I'm happy to say I'm actually partnering in a company in addition to my, Brave Masters, that is related to transformational work, because I think it's so huge, even in business, like mindset is everything, right? So, the more messengers we can have, the better. And so thanks for doing that in the world. And so real quick, what is the best way for people to connect with you and get a taste of what you're up to?
So first place would be my website, paulaquinsee.com.
Great.
Otherwise, you can find me on all the social media channels. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me there. I love learning from other people, love collaborating with other people, because I believe that there is strength in numbers and value in numbers, because we can always learn from each other. So yeah, I look forward to connecting and hearing and learning more from everybody.
Wonderful. Yes, love it. That's perfect. We'll put it, paulaquinsee.com in the show notes as well. And the other thing, I have one last question. I always like to ask this at the end. If this was your very last interview, no more interviews, no more talks, no more stages, this was your last chance to share a message with the world, what would that message be?
I think go out there and live your truth. Be true to yourself. Do what makes you happy. Forget about the crowds and the noise out there, and be okay with who you are. Because everybody's unique, everybody's special, everybody has some quality to share, and we all have a story, and we can learn from each other.
Yeah, I love it. Love that soundbite. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's so true. It's just, and it really is a testament to what you've done, and what's possible for everyone else watching. So thank you so much, Paula, for being here. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation, and I just look forward to sharing you with the world. So going global, as you say. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, I'm sure our paths will cross again somewhere, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Yes, I would love that. So thank you very much. And for everyone watching and listening in, please, like I said, if you liked what you heard, or you just like the concept of this show, would love your reviews or comments or feedback. And certainly reach out to Paula and get to know her more. And until next time, let's go get our brave on. Bye, everyone.